Welcome to the McCall College Community Education. I'm Dr. Brian Williams, and we're pleased to have you here tonight. We're especially pleased to have my wife here, and that's Nettie K. And Nettie K is a bit of a YouTube sensation, and we're thrilled that she's here tonight. And she's going to be offering us something that's wonderful, and that's how to begin a portrait. And so we look forward to the portrait, and we particularly look forward to the subject, because tonight the subject will be our 6-year-old grandson, Oakley.
Hi everybody, and welcome again. Real excited. I've got this wonderful photo. I know Brian's got it on the on our screen. This is a photo that I took of Oakley when we were playing in the backyard before he got a big haircut. So he now has really short hair, but I love this picture, so I'm going to paint this one. Maybe I'll paint him with short hair next time, who knows. But that's a grandmother's prerogative. We can just do that. I like it because there's a couple of things going on in the photo. When you're doing a portrait, everybody, you know all those silly school photos that we just think, oh, well, I'll just use that one. You know, the old pictures where they put the blue screen in the background. And then, you know, we just have that face forward, looking right at you, toothy grin. Well, that's not what you want to paint, all right? I like this one because, number one, I caught it without him posing. He was actually tossing a little basket around that was hanging from a rope in the evening sun. And so the sun was starting to set, and you can see how beautiful the eyes are, and the sun is kind of shining through the eyes. And then it casts this very distinct shadow along this side of his face. So that's key. That's, I think, what we would call Rembrandt style lighting, where you have very, very light on one side and dark on the other. Now, a lot of photographers try to, you know, just even that out, and you have nothing but just a straight, flat looking image. The main thing is don't use a flash, all right? If you use a flash, it's going to wipe the whole thing out. You're not going to have any information to work from. I actually did a portrait of one of the Nobel laureate scientists, Thomas Morgan, for the California Institute of Technology. And it was from a black and white photo, and his face was completely half in shadow to where you couldn't even see one eye. And so it was all in black and white as well. One of the best paintings I've ever painted. And part of that is because it had such distinct shadows. And that's what you want to look for. So, just saying, I better get on to paint, lady. Okay. Anyway, I have a little stretched canvas here. And what I think I'd like to do, I'm going to see if I can do this. I'm going to put this photo for myself over here, but I think Brian's got some other another option so that you can watch. And what I want to do is I'm going to start out by taking I'm going to just take a brush, and I've got some thinner down here on my palette. I hope that's thinner. Hope it's not water. That would just do it. And I'm going to begin by putting a very thinned out wash or glaze, not really a glaze. If you're doing watercolor, it's a glaze or it's a wash. And then if you're doing a oil, it would be kind of more of a tint. Okay, this is a tint of this kind of burnt sienna. And you can do it in different colors. A lot of times, if you've got a nice warm subject, you want to use a cool color. But I want to think about this in kind of an old-fashioned sepia kind of tone to start with, and then we'll see how far we get. So I'm really juicing it up. I should be using a roller, I suppose, and just putting a really super thin layer of this dark kind of middle tone. It will turn out to be a middle tone burnt umber. And then we'll just use a paper towel, and I'm going to wipe that in. And a lot of times I do this one flat, you guys, so you know, you can do it a lot faster if you do it that way. And so I'm toning it like this, And let's see how far I've gotten. I'm going to use actually one of these paper towels. I've got, there's a difference between paper towels. Let's talk about that. These are some of my mom's from the building, and they're really rough and textured and linty. And these are my Viva paper towels. I'm not doing a sponsorship of that, but I've got, they're like cloth. So you either use, you know, some old socks or t-shirts that are torn up, or you use like a Viva towel that is cloth-like. Oh, there goes my picture. That's going to be fun. I'll get it later. Anyway, we've got this going, and so it kind of looks like you're doing a little bit of a what I want to say, like a stain of like you're staining leather almost, doesn't it? Looks like leather to start with. That's a nice thinned out little thing like that. We're not going to get too fussy with it. And okay, so all right, here's my picture. Thank you. Good. All right. Except I'm gonna have to hold it, Brian. So yeah, I've got such bad eyes. I've got to hold it up close to my face. This is why I get cramps in my left hand too, because I'm holding it up like this all the time. So now I've got. I'm going to use another little brush, and I'm going to find out where I want the top of this piece. And so where the top of his head's going to go. And so we'll put the top of his head, the back of his head kind of right like that. And then I will decide where, if I think about his kind of his skull area, where his skull is, it'll be kind of a circular thing. And then I'm going to come down to where the midline of his face is. Now he's got, he's not looking straight at the camera, and he's not looking side to side. So what I've got is kind of a little bit of a 3/4, and I'm just going to make some adjustments here and there. I'm just fiddling around and trying to figure out where this all goes. Okay, and one of the things I want to mention to you when you're doing kids now, you'll do a kid, and I'll tell you, this happened to me for years. I couldn't figure it out. I thought, why in the world does this kid look older than he's supposed to? Now I'm gonna, before I keep going on, I want to look at it and say, what is the angle of the eyes? And I'm gonna just kind of come across like this to start with. Get the angle of the eyes and the angle of the nose and the angle of the mouth. Well, one of the things that happens when you're painting children or drawing children is you'll make the distance between the nose and the mouth too long. So if it looks old, shorten it up. You know, if the child looks old, you want to shorten that up. And also we think about where the eyes are in comparison to the rest of the face. I want to think about it being halfway. And so I'm going to put my finger here, measure that like that. That's halfway, I hope. And then halfway. So yeah, and then his hair kind of poofs up a little bit on the top. But the eyes are not up here. Okay, we tend to put the eyes, because we think of them as more important, we'll put them up higher than they really are. And so we need to remember that if I have this, I want to think about halfway. The halfway mark is right about in here. And I don't want to put them up here. I want to make sure that I don't do that. Okay, so now I'm going to put a couple of marks in again. We'll figure out where things are, and I want to put in maybe just an indication of where that nose is going to go. The center of the nose is going to come down like this, and then here's part of the nostril. These are just kind of where the nostrils are going to go, and then I'll just put this. I sure hope this comes out to you know, a little bit close to what he looks like, because I'm sitting off to the side, and so you get this distortion thing. One of the coolest things now when you're doing it is make sure you sit right directly in front of it like this, so that you don't distort things. But you can also put a mirror about 8 feet behind you, and you can turn around and see it backwards and get kind of a better perspective on where things are. So I'm starting a little bit with where the nose is, the angle of the nose, and then how it kind of curves down like this. So the distance between the bottom of the nose and the lip line, the parting line of the lip, is very, very, very short. And then I work my way out. Often I will work my way out from the actual, from the nose. I'll work my way out and kind of get where things are like this. So I'll put little marks in, and I know, hey, it doesn't look like him yet. That's always so funny when somebody says that. This is also another area that I watch out for, is the ball of the nose, and then you come up and you find the next hint, which is going to be the shadow underneath the eye, and then the eyes kind of fit in here like this. Isn't this wild? It's just crazy, I know. Here's a little bit of his eye, and you don't see the whole eyeball on this one, especially because he's got sun in his face. And so then I come up like this and say, okay, where's that? And then I'm going to try to kind of get this into an even spot, find where his eye is, and then I'll double check it. But meanwhile, that's kind of where I'm going to start. That looks really weird, I know. And then I'll find where the shadow line is, and we're going to kind of cut in here, and I'm really paying attention as to how much space is happening in the shadow. And we're, you know, not putting in the hairs and all the little things, you guys. I'm just kind of getting an idea to start with, just to begin. And then I'll kind of get an idea of where that hair is going to end up. And then a little bit of where the neck is. Now, I know that looks really weird. I know that. So here's how we go from this. Kind of have this idea of where stuff is. Now I'm going to get a clean one. A clean paper towel, and I'm going to use a little bit of odorless thinner on my towel. I've got it in a little jar. I'm going to dip that in, and hopefully this won't dry super fast. It's oil paint, but it's very, very warm tonight. So now I'm going to, because this is kind of a middle tone on the canvas, I'm now going to, number one, I'm going to take my glasses off. I'm going to come in here and begin taking this paper towel with some thinner on it, and I'm going to begin removing some of this. You can see how that is. This is just at the cheek right there. I'm removing a little bit of that thin paint down to the canvas. Okay, and then we'll come down like this, and I can always put it back in if it's not quite right. And then I'll come up the nose a little bit. And this is where I can really make some corrections. If I don't like it, I can wipe the whole thing off, and it's not any big deal. Nothing's lost there. And I'll use various different tools depending on my mood. But I might use a little, if I want to get detailed, I can use little Q-tips if I want. I can, you know, get. That looks really weird, so I'm going to wipe that out and just kind of get the basic big shapes to start with. And I'll kind of come down here where the mouth is. Hope this isn't too confusing, but this is just one of the ways that I will begin. Now, if you are not really comfortable with drawing, yeah, you know, you can trace something on or transfer it on, but this is kind of fun to try. You know, if you're worried about it, the problem when you do that is that it will look very much like almost like a paint by number when you do that, or it'll look artificial. This looks like scary art right now, that's for sure. But this is the way I will often start my portrait kind of things like that. I need to get rid of that center line, that's bugging me. And then so this is just where that face starts. This could be kind of like a little horror movie right now. And then I'll come up here where I know that forehead is. I can go ahead and take that center line out now and begin thinking about the plane across this face, right across the forehead and underneath the eye. And there's a little bit of a reflected light there. And then right in here. Then I got to come back in with my actual paintbrush and redraw where things are. Okay, so now I've got to come back in and find that nose. Isn't this weird? It's weird. I bet he's going to look about 22 today. I can just feel it. As the things get too long really, really easily. Oops, sorry. That in here so you can see it. There we go. I'm going to try to keep this close to where you can see what I'm doing. And then I'm just kind of wiping that in. And now I'm going to restate where the drawing is again. So I'm going to go back in with a little bit more. Find that. I'll try to keep that into where you can see what I'm doing. And now I will put the drawing in. You'll redraw often about, upwards to 7 times, you guys. You can do that. Every time I sit down to a second or third sitting on when I'm working on something, I will tend to go through and redraw as much as I need to double check to make sure that I haven't messed anything up royally, So that's kind of where I'm at. Now I'm going to put the shadow in, which is very, very interesting. And here's a shadow. It's going to begin to bring out the shape. You see how that shadow just instantly pushes back a little bit and pops what I have left behind forward. And so now I'm going to come back up here, and I'm going to say, okay, how much distance is it between this shadow and where this shadow begins? And then I'll be able to definitely, hopefully, place where the eye goes. So now I'm looking for the shadows, and I see this goes up like this, and I've got another shadow under here, and we'll find how far off I am on this little eye right here. There we go. And then I'll come back in and wipe out anything that I need to there. Okay, now we've got a little bit better idea of where that shadow is going to go. It's messy, but art's messy. That's just the way it is. And so I'll come back in again and begin. I've got this, I think I've got that fairly close, and so now I'll make sure I know there's just a small space of light right there, and I begin pulling this up, and then I can guess a little bit, a little closer. This is the joy of oil painting. You can mess around and wipe it off, and mess around and wipe it off. With acrylic, you have to paint over it, okay, which is okay. You can paint over it if you want. Just let it dry for 5 minutes and you can paint over it. That's pretty neat. So I've got that shadow right there. Make sure that the nose is making sense. Here's the angle of the nose, and it comes under like that. The shadow, the mouth is coming up, and I'll see if I can get this shape right. I love the challenge of portraits, even if I get it wrong sometimes. Okay. It's just being able to figure out how to get something to look just like it is. Not exactly photorealistic. Who needs that? Nobody.
Just a quick comment.
Yes.
We've got an interesting conversation happening
Oh, awesome.
on the chat line.
Good.
And Beverly Cassidy, Fine Art, is wanting to say hello.
Hello.
And she says she loves watching you paint.
That's
and
wonderful.
Then I'm not sure I can say this right, but Lilwert also is also talking on the chat line. So we've got some great folks that are talking to each other and talking to you.
Thanks for joining us. That's just so great. This is kind of a new thing for us to have conversations going on at the same time. Okay, now can you sort of see how that face is beginning to emerge? He looks about 15. Okay, I got it. But part of that's because some of the features like the chin hasn't been put in. And so it takes a while to get all these things, hopefully. And you can measure really, really carefully and get it just right. So, you take your time. I am doing something a little bit bizarre and different today. But anyway, I'm so glad. So where's everybody, excuse me, where's everybody from? Put something down there if you're from, wherever you're from. Here I'm shortening up the chin.
Beverly's coming in from Palm Bay, Florida.
Excellent. That's wonderful. That's great. There we go. Okay, now I've got this lower lip kind of developing, and I've got a very strong shadow under here. It might even look so weird that I might have to rethink that and say, okay, do I need that darker shadow? Probably not. Okay, and then at this stage, I'll come back in with the little paper towel again, and I'll dip it back in again. I can use, okay, now I'm gonna double check my things. I'm gonna come back in, take out, oops, stick a little more, and then I'll double check this part, get that a little closer to the nose, and there, that's starting to really come together. I love that. Okay, and we'll come in like that, and the more I do this, the lighter, hopefully the lighter this gets, as far as my paper towel, as long as I keep it nice and clean. And then, okay, now that face is becoming much more classic. Ooh, that's so beautiful. Once you get this tonal thing down, really, the reason I do this kind of thing first, all right, is because when you're trying to do all the color and the shape, the tone, the color, and the drawing at the same time, it's super hard to get it all done because you've got so many balls in the air. It's like you're leading a full orchestra, and this is kind of like getting part of it done, one thing at a time. So all you're worried about is what? The shape and the tone. You're not worried about the color. You don't, as soon as you have to get into the color, it gets a little bit confusing. Okay. So you want to make sure you get kind of the tone, the tonal values, and the shape down before you hit that color. Okay, now I'm feeling like I can take a breath. When you start out, it's pretty darn scary. It's like, okay, we're live now, and I can't just go, oh, whoops, I messed up. Yeah, you can say that if you want. But it is kind of one of those, you get to a point where you can almost see it. Can everybody almost see it? I hope so. I hope so. Now I'll come back in. I can come back in with a wider brush at this stage. And I want to, now I think I figured out where this, oop, that's a little dark, where this, the neck is going to come in. And there. Can you tell this is one of my favorite things to do? I absolutely love the opportunity to do a portrait. I don't get a lot of opportunities to do them. I do a lot of pets. I'll just say that. And I love doing the pets too, but it's a rare thing when I get an opportunity to just paint something, well, especially my own grandson, that's wonderful. I've got a new baby granddaughter too that I will be painting shortly. She's 10 months old and she's just as cute as she can be. And I never thought I would be one of those ladies is like, oh, take a look at my pictures, So I paint them and say, oh, take a look at my painting. That's fun. So I hope you guys have something that you would like to paint at some point. And the things that we love, we tend to do a better job of, all right, I think. I have all of my kids painted, each one of them, all boys, and now I've got a little girl granddaughter named Piper. She's so cute. She's crawling around. Busy. She's part Italian, and so is he. Can you tell? He's a blonde Italian. His mom's Italian. She's a beautiful Italian woman, and he's this. He's got his dad's blonde hair and his mom's beautiful face, and looks like his dad too. They're just a good mix. Okay, that's got a beautiful glow going on. I'm super happy with that. I'll go back in now and find. You see how I'm not worried. I'm just not worried about the color. It's so nice not to have to worry about it. Better get some sort of an eyeball in, or it's going to look a little bit weird. Like that. We'll just kind of get this down. The other thing that you got to be careful of when you're doing kids is, if you're you've got to watch out for too much dark lines. Sometimes we get so carried away. If you make a big dark lines and eyelashes and lines everywhere, then they will look older. So when you're doing older people, well, that's a lot of fun, but you've got to kind of keep it nice and soft. And I tend to fight with that a little bit. I'll tell you that right now. Now, what I'm looking for right here is the parting line between those two lips. Okay. That's the most important part. I think it's probably the most important part of your face. Okay. Which is why when we're wearing masks, which I know we have to go back to that, and it's really important that you do, but how we identify each other is not by our eyes, it's by our lips, okay? We look at each other, we really, I think the most identifying mark is the parting line between the upper lip and the lower lip. That's where our expression is, and it can change. But this is the line. Look really carefully at your photos. It's not a straight line, okay? It's not anywhere near a straight line, especially if they're just barely smiling. So I'm coming down like this, and I'm going, okay, it's the line right here. It comes up a little bit and down a little bit and up a little bit, and then it kind of comes out like that. And then you get the expression right there, and that dark shadow again right there. And so, yeah, that's the key thing. Really observe that with everything you've got and say, what is that really looking like? Same thing for the inside of the ear. Well, we don't identify each other by our ears, except for maybe my grandfather. He had really big ears, and I could kind of do a caricature of him with just his ears sometimes. But for the most part, we don't want to overemphasize it, but go look inside somebody's ear and say, well, what am I really looking at? And try not to just make it up as you go. Really look at it and say, wow, what does it look like? So glad. Yeah, kids are a challenge. They really are. I have messed up enough of them over the last, how long have I been painting? Oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah, 20, 30 years, 30 years. And I love painting kids now, but wow, I sure messed up enough of them. I think it's just learning that they really are kind of well, they have these big eyes, and the eyes are the same size, you guys, as our eyes. Okay, the eyeballs themselves are the same size as adults, but they look bigger because their faces are smaller. And each little thing, this area between here and here is shorter than an older person, and this area is shorter between here and here, and this area is shorter between here and here. So, you know, sometimes the foreheads will look much larger. My little granddaughter has my forehead, poor thing. Anyway, and so the forehead might be larger, but the eyes will be the same size as an adult's, but everything else is smaller. Okay, just say it. That's kind of wild, but that's the way it goes. All right, now I think I've got to the point where I'm kind of happy with the placement of everything, and what I'm going to do now is going to be one of those fun little things where I'm going to mix up a few skin tones. Now, when you're doing you know, most kids, well, we've got a Caucasian child here, and but most skin tones is there's a combination of red, some kind of yellow, and white. Okay, that's basically the basic warm tones. You want to make sure that you have some cool tones on top of that. So let's take a look. I don't have all my paints. I accidentally left my bucket at home thinking it was here. Isn't that fun? So I've got a few, and so we'll find out how good I am at mixing colors. Woohoo! Okay, so I want to start out with mixing up. Let's see what happens if I do like a cadmium yellow. No, then I put a red down. Okay, cadmium red, and that's a really dark red. And what if I do? I'm going to add a little bit of white to it. And it's just a little bit of rose color. And then I'm going to add some yellow to it. And this is just a cadmium yellow light. And that gives me a nice rosy color that I might use on the upper lip, that kind of a thing. And then I'm going to give myself several values of that by adding white to it. So here we go. Can you see that? Yes, you can. I've got a little bit of white there, and then I've got a big blob of white on the side. So then I'm going to add more white to it there. And you see how I've got three different values already. And then if I keep going, I have this wonderful rosy skin color. And usually I'll use a cadmium red light. Mark this down, girls. A cadmium red light with raw sienna on a good day. Cadmium red light with raw sienna and white. That's a basic Caucasian skin tone, kind of like where my rosy cheek is. I hope I didn't put paint on my face. Oh well, that's what it looks like. Okay, now I'm going to wipe off my brush. And so I've got this basic skin tone. Now here is what we just did with that. All right, if I do burnt sienna next to it and just white. Okay, burnt sienna and white. White is very opaque, and that's kind of a Barbie, you know, kind of a Barbie artificial color right there. Sometimes you need it for different things. I don't use it as often, but you do need it. And so this is very warm coloration. All right. So now what I also need is I need something cool. And so I'm going to come in here with, let me just see what I've got. I've got a little bit of dioxazine purple. What does that look like if I put white with it? Well, it's really purple. Okay. So I'll take a little bit of dioxazine purple and a little bit of viridian green or viridian hue. And then I'm going to add a little bit of white to that and see what that looks like. That's seriously purple. Now I'll go back in and add, I'm going to go back in, so I'm just trying to adjust this. It's a little bit, okay, a little bit too purple, so I'm going to add more viridian. Viridian is not as strong as the dioxazine purple. And so here I have this kind of a grayish, lavender kind of gray color. When I'm doing kids, everybody, when I'm doing kids, those two combinations are kind of a lavender in the shadows and a peachy color in the warms. And then I might do something with a little bit, I'm wiping my brush off, something with a little bit more yellow to it. I'm asking myself, okay, is it too warm? Is it too cool? Does it need to have, and that's really green. Look what happens when you do that. We don't really want that color. So I really think I would like to tone that down with a tiny bit of red. If it's too red, you do this, and then you add your yellow to it. And you can use a little bit of, what I want to say, yellow, ochre, and white is really good as well. It's an easier way of doing something. I'm going to need a lot of white with this. Okay, so I've got kind of a light yellow, and then I'll just keep adding white to each of these combinations. So I'll add some to the purple a little bit. These are just some of them. If I'd like to do a full palette of colors that will range from raw sienna to cadmium red light to yellow ochre, and it's just a full complex palette that I use for a portrait when I'm doing a super full formal portrait. So, but this right now, I want to simplify it for you guys by saying we're going to use kind of a muted lavender for the shadows, a cadmium red light with yellow for the basic skin tones, and kind of a yellowish tone. Maybe we'll brighten that up just a little bit more. And then we're making this kind of grayish color just for fun, with just a mix of a bunch of stuff. Okay, so just saying. All right, let's get on with this. Here we go. Now this gets very, very interesting. So I'm going to come in here and look at my picture again, refocus, and I'm going to take that first kind of little bit of that reddish color, that first pile that we made, and I'm going to put that in and begin making a little bit of a rose color in the shadow. I don't want to make my shadows too gray. That'll kill the youthfulness of a child's portrait. So I'm going in with that kind of warm color to begin with, and then I will go back in again with the darker color in some of the purples. And then I'll come in here and I'm going to put in some right there. And I want to make sure there are some areas that are really, really warm. One is generally up above the eyebrows. You know, ladies, when we put on our makeup, we'll put a little blush across the eyebrow, on the nose, on the cheeks, and the chin. So it's the eyebrow, the nose, the cheeks, and the chin that will have the warmest color. And so it's just like putting on makeup, and then you just kind of work it from there. Okay, so then I will move up a little bit in my color, in my tonal values. I'm going to move up in my piles. You see how the piles go from dark to light. And we'll take some of that a little bit lighter, and I'll take the lighter color down into this area here because I'm seeing a reflected light there. And we'll put this in. I'm working my way up from kind of this dark to light combination, and I want to split that nose a little bit because the light's coming from the left. I usually have the light coming from the right. Because I'm right-handed, I tend to be more comfortable using light coming from the right side. Isn't that interesting? Yeah, that's the way we are. So if you see some of the artists that are left-handed, you'll see their light is coming from the left side more so than the right. So there we go. Now I'm going to get into some really weird stuff here. I'm going to go into this light kind of purple color just to test that out. This is our lavender I'm going to add just a tiny bit of our skin tone in there. Okay, our warm skin tone into that light lavender. And we'll put that in. You need both warm and cool colors, otherwise it looks like a Barbie doll, okay? If you don't put a warm color and a cool color in, number one, the warm colors won't look as warm. You see how warm this looks? I hope you guys can make that out. It looks warmer because there's a cool color next to it. So I'll put a little bit of that cool color down into the neck as I've got it on my brush, and then I'll begin pulling that in. I'll just kind of throw that in a few little spots there. I've got a shadow. This little area right here is a muscle that sticks out on the side of the nose just a little bit right there, and then underneath the eye. And I'll just put that little bit of a grayish purple under the eye there. This is called the philtrum, which is that little divot under the nose. Okay, that kind of thing that goes around and shapes your lip. Don't make that too dark, especially with kids, because you don't want to look like they have a mustache. And we can get too carried away with that big time. So there's that. And now this line, this area right here, the corner of the mouth, that's where the expression hits. And so there's a muscle right here, and I think about that, let's see, almost like a was it greater than, less than kind of sign. And I'm going to put that in like that, and I create this muscle that comes out like that. Okay, it's kind of like a little arrow. Does that make sense? I hope so. And then I'll find that over here probably in a light tone. Anybody have any questions at this stage? Kind of wild, isn't it? It's really, really wild. I'm shaping it out by doing this. And now I'm going to get lighter and lighter if I possibly can. Let's see. And rosier. Okay. So now I also want to add a lot more light. I'm going to go into a kind of a rose color. This one is quinacridone rose with white, and I will add that to some of our other colors and see if I can kind of rosy it up, maybe just a little bit more orangish color. Most people will have a dominant color, okay, a dominant, like for instance, my skin tone as a redhead is in the peach realm, okay, peach, peach, peach. I'm not really pink. I don't have a lot of pink. My husband would be in the rose color. He would have more rose than, he doesn't have peachy colored skin. He has and the opposite color to that. Okay, so with Oakley, he's got a little bit of that Italian rose color plus a little bit of peach. but then you'll have the gray undertones or violet undertones. So I'm going to say it one more time. You have peach tones, and so if I were painting myself, I would paint myself with gray contrast to the peach. I know it sounds terrible, but it is what we use. For my husband, he has a rose skin, and so I would, which is kind of more in the reddish family, and I would go more greens underneath his skin tone. Okay, so that's a complex order, isn't it? Okay, so let's see. We got this. And I'm going to come up here and begin to lighten that up and bring that in like this and lighten it up, lighten it up. And then from here it should really, it's starting to really go fast. I know it's just crazy. I hope we can get this lightened up. If we can't, then we'll just take a rag and wipe it off, you know, and pull that light back out again. That's an easy way to do it. Got to wash your brush out and rub it off every once in a while too. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is I'm going to grab some white, and I'm going to put that white onto the forehead. I'm going to find where that light is, like this. There we go. And then I will use that. I don't generally use a lot of just straight white, I don't. But I'm using that because I know you need to see that contrast. So I'm going to put that in, and then I will put some of the paint from the palette onto the painting as we go. The kid's skin, a lot of the time on a Caucasian child, it's much lighter than you think, okay? much lighter than you think. You just really look at it, hold up, you know, paint next to the photo and say, how light is that? Oh my goodness. Yeah, it's super light. So you gotta, if you don't come up as light as you need to, they'll change ethnicities on you. You know, that's what will happen. All of a sudden you'll have somebody coming out from, you know, different lineage, and usually you don't get it light enough. Okay. And it's much, you know, for me it's kind of a challenge to get things light enough. So anyways, I'm going to grab a little bit of that pink and orange, and we're going to just come in and really heat that nose up. Even though I don't really see that in the photo, I'm going to make that nice and warm because I like it. I want it nice and warm. And then I will come in and make another little warm thing. I don't want to over mix either, so I'm driving myself just a little bit crazy. And then I'll bring in right in here, a little bit of a dark here. And then I want to pull in, again, that light, almost gray, light right here on the cheek, wherever that light hits. I'm looking for it now. And let's keep going. Woo. And we're going to come up under here and where that light hits on that philtrum right there. Just like that. And then I'm going to make this a little bit lighter there. And then there's this little thing that happens right as the that philtrum kind of goes around. The lip doesn't hit right on the philtrum. There's a light muscle that kind of comes up above up there. And so I make sure that I get that on like that. Okay. A little bit more light. A little more light right there. A little more light here. So it's still relatively monochromatic. You know what I mean? It's not, there's not a lot of color in it right at this point. I'm still messing around really with the tonal values and secretly creeping up on the color because there's not a lot of color. There's not a lot of color. It's interesting how there's not that much color like that. And then I'll come back in with a nice warm, little bit of that yellow into my gray down here and lighten that up here. Give him a little shirt. Not sure about that white shirt. And then we'll come back in here like this. All right, I'm going to warm that, warm that up a little bit. Where am I going here? There we go. Like that. Now, one of the things that you guys got to pay attention to, the upper lip, most of the time the upper lip will be darker than the lower lip. Okay, let's see. I want to get a smaller brush. This is really big fat brush. I don't want to start painting with too many, you know, really super fat brushes either when I'm doing something like this. I want to, I want to start with a larger brush and then work down to a smaller brush. What am I saying? Must be too hot in here. And I'm going to put in my dark lip like that on the top and kind of get that nice shape. A little bit Angelina Jolie right now. And I'll put in a little dark area right there. Now I'm going to come up really fairly light on the bottom lip. Okay, little bottom lip right here where the light hits. Like that. So the bottom lip is generally, just make an observation, is generally lighter than the top lip because the top lip's coming in and is kind of casting a shadow on itself. Okay. Sorry, Oakley, I'm making you look like a beautiful girl here. I need to probably, well, I'll make some adjustments. There we go. I'm going to bend that out a little bit like this. And then you kind of work it around like that. Okay, so it's taking nice shape. And then we'll come back in with a little bit of our dark area here. I'm going to shape it out and put it in here. Any questions, Dr. Williams? We got any questions coming in at all?
Oh, it's quite busy tonight.
Is it really?
And,
awesome. That's great.
So,
that's great.
So that's great.
I'm going to pull that in.
We're struggling a little bit with my audio, but everyone's trying to help me.
Okay, good. We'll get this technology here at some point. We'll figure it all out. Okay. Put this back in here. I'm going to give this some really, really light hair just for a second. I'm just going to take up the highlights here on the top with the hair just a little bit, just to give you an idea. Generally, when you're doing blonde hair, you start out with a really dark tone where there's shadow, and then you kind of work your way around a little bit. Okay, I'm going to push that back this direction, and shaping this muscle. It can get a little bit picky, you guys, and I realize if you're really into it, if you're really into portraits, then it's so fascinating. If you're not, it's like, oh my gosh, what is she doing? I'm throwing in a little tiny bit of lighter value with the eye. Okay, let's get kind of fun here. So I've got just a little white of the eye, which I generally don't use bright white. Okay, it's toned down a little bit. It's a skin tone rather than white. You don't want it bugging out too much, so there I'm going to put a little bit there. And then I want to give the nose a little bit of help. I'm going to go back and forth a little bit this way and pull in a little bit of muscle like that, and up into the eye here. Got to think about this and concentrate. And I'm going to grab a little dark purple and Viridian, simply because I forgot my black. So I'm going to now put in indication of a pupil, right like this, brings it to life, right like this, and hopefully I don't have them cross-eyed like, well, a lot of babies and little kids look cross-eyed anyway. And then I'm going to take some, I'm just wiping off my brush a little bit, and I'm going to take some Viridian and white. I got a bunch of junk on my brush here. Viridian, white. Didn't look like purple, but it does. Messed up. And he's got a little bit of kind of a greenish yellow eye, so we'll take that in. I'm going to just kind of begin to create this eye with this Viridian hue with a little bit of white, not too much white, and then it begins to kind of pop out. Look at how that just makes it so interesting, doesn't it? And I'm going to take a little bit of my yellowish weirdo combination that I made over here. This would probably be closer to yellow ochre and white. And I'm putting a tiny fleck of that yellow color over here on this side because he has kind of hazel eyes. So it's a bit kind of a bluish green with a little bit of yellow in that wonderful light that's coming through. What am I doing? All right, I'm going to tell you. The light is coming from my left side. It shoots through the eyeball and comes out over here just like a grape. Okay. And so then on top of that, then I will come in with a lighter. I want to see if this one's a little bit better here. I hope my new brushes come fairly soon. I've worn all my brushes right out. I hope you take better care of your brushes than I do. Now, okay, so if you're looking right here, we've got this wonderful glow beginning. And now on where the light hits is right where it shoots through, and it shoots through over here. And now I'm going to come in right between the pupil and where the color hits, and I'm going to put just a small speck of light right about in here. Generally, I'll go up about 10 o'clock, and then I'll bring it down and just throw in just a little bit extra of that light on there, and that just makes those eyeballs really glow. Isn't that something? Whoa, man, that's so pretty. I just love it. That's my favorite part. Can you tell? Yeah. Okay, now I'm back up. I got this light color on my brush, and I think I'm going to just kind of begin to shape that eyelid up above like that, and a little bit more of that eyelid right there. I'm realizing I got to push that eyebrow up just a little bit more. It's like shaping it with Play-Doh. You're just sculpting away and creating this kind of thing. So now I'm going to come in with a little more of that peachy color. I'm not real happy with my red right now, but I want to make it a little bit stronger.
Question coming in.
Yes.
There, and I hope my audio is better this time. Beverly is asking, are you using any medium at this point, or is it straight from the tube? Also, what brand paint do you typically use?
Okay, I forgot my Neo Magilp. Now, I normally will use a little Neo Magilp, especially if it's the second layer of a painting. But on this one, I have been using a little bit of odorless thinner, and that's it. So no medium outside of a little odorless thinner, and that's all I've been using, just to, in fact, if my paint gets a little too thick, then I'll use a little bit in a little jar. I think you can see it over here is my little jar. Oh, you can't really see it. Okay, it's my little jar of odorless thinner, and that's called, I think this one is actually Terpenoid. And so now you can see I've got quite a bit of warm color that I just set in, and I'm going to take this really soft brush, and I'm just going to very carefully lay it on top of those two. I'm not pushing down at all. I'm just dragging it across and kind of softening it a little bit, like, okay, like that, and then kind of cleaning that up, and then I'll come underneath. I'm realizing that the area, the shadowish area under the eyes, is a little too red, so it makes him look really kind of sleepy, and so, which never happens with him. He's never sleepy. He never sleeps, this boy. And so I'll come back in and I'll put in a little bit more of that cool color there. But meanwhile, I want to take a wider brush, and I'm going to develop this part of the muscle there a little bit stronger, and like this. And when I use a larger brush and load it up a little bit more, that gives me, you can see how that just, if I really, really load that brush up, I can now create that kind of feeling of highlight that was kind of missing. So I've got that nice light highlight on the cheek, And it's still, I hope he still looks relatively young. I hope. It made him look too old at this stage. I'm going to bring that down in this direction. Well, I wish you all were here with me. And I'll tell you, that would just be so much fun if we had everybody in a classroom. Wouldn't that be fun? Oh, someday. Yep.
And just a note, I think we're starting to come to the end of tonight's
Oh my
broadcast.
goodness, time
So
is just
would
flying.
you
I'm going to wrap that up.
give that a little bit of a comment on really almost how to stop?
I know
How
it's
do you
hard.
stop the painting?
You know, at any point, everybody, you don't like, even at this point, I'm really happy with that. I could sign that painting right now, I think, just about, and be happy with that. That's called a study, okay? And sometimes the studies are even better than the ones that you just overwork. You know, you just can pick it to no end, and then it's just like, oh my gosh. So I'm really happy with kind of how far we got today. It's nice and loose. You didn't, you know, we didn't pick it with two hairs and some air, you know, tiny brush. But you can paint when you get just some of the basic structure. You can end it at any point if you feel as though you've got the tone, the shape, and then you can add a little color. You can end it at any point, and then I can also develop this all the way to every freckle, you know. But you can sign it and you can be done.
Well, we have Paola, who likes it already, and Beverly says looks great. So
Thank you, everyone.
I think we're on the way here. Are you thinking of doing a second one of this one for next week?
Well, I probably will move on to something else. I don't know. Would everybody like to see how this one finishes up? I may bring it back when it's done, or, well, we could do hair. We could do hair a little bit. Maybe we could do it one more time. What do you think?
I think there's enough interest tonight that I think if we can make an
Yes.
executive decision,
Let's do
and
that.
just say that okay, we're gonna work on hair next
We'll
week.
work on the hair.
And for some of you,
yes.
they didn't realize that this is our grandson.
Yes,
And,
looks like I know he got a nice short haircut now, so he looks much more like a little rough and tumble boy. But I just love that kind of wonderful hair that he had. Not that I don't love this little spiky hair now, but yeah.
And I think I just sort of like for you to do a little self-promotion on the portraits that you have done. You've done it in other videos. But what portraits do you enjoy the most?
Well, right now, of course, I'm really enjoying doing portraits of children. I just finished one of a grandmother and a grandbaby that just went off to, I think, North Carolina, if I'm not mistaken. But I really enjoyed this kind of loose portrait, if I possibly can. You can go onto my Etsy site and find a few different offerings there on how to get a portrait. If you want to get one like this, you can probably find one. I'll probably post this one too. The main thing is, everybody, is that if you want it, make sure you get a good picture that has light on one side and dark on the other.
Now, we've had a question as to how do you now save the paint on your palette?
Oh, that's an interesting question. This is oil paint, everyone. So guess what? The oil paint you can put in the freezer. Yeah, just put a piece of plastic over it and you can put it in the freezer. Some paints dry faster than others. The cadmium reds will last for probably, a couple of weeks in the freezer. The browns don't last that long. The whites take a long time to dry. So certain colors will last a long time. But you can freeze them. I don't generally do that, but you can definitely give that a shot. Put it in the refrigerator or the freezer. Refrigerator's fine too. Just don't eat it later, you know. That's one way that you can do it. If it's acrylic, it's just, you just gotta let it go because it's gonna dry. You know, it's just gonna dry out. So, as far as I know, yeah.
Okay, and let's give them a place to go as to looking at your other portraits. So where would you like people to go to see other portraits that you've painted?
Okay, I do have a website, do I not? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. And okay, tell me what my website is, Dr. Williams.
NettieK.com.
NettieK.com, and I think it's NETTIE, letter K.com. That's what it is, letter K. So yeah, there's all kinds of different portraits on there, and you know, you can just enjoy that. So so the Etsy site is nettieKstudio.etsy.com, and
what
the website.
Can they get there?
And you can find all kinds of dog portraits, people portraits, paintings, all kinds of stuff available.
And that's where they can,
actually
purchase what on the Etsy site?
You can purchase a commission, you can purchase a painting, and you know, you can order anything that you like, actually, pretty much. Yeah.
And now your educational videos are where?
Are on YouTube at Nettie K Studio. So www.youtube.com/Nettie K, NETTIE K. Oh my gosh, is it just K? Yes, the letter K Studio. Yes.
Okay.
All right.
And there were some issues with this video, and so what we'll be doing now is I'll be taking them and editing them, and those videos will be on the McCall College site.
Yes.
So we will then place each of these videos on the McCall College site. So there's a little confusion there. We're live now on your site because you've got 6,000 subscribers.
Oh, I didn't know.
Or something like
yes,
that.
Yes, I do.
You?
I do. I have 6,000 subscribers.
Yeah. And so, but we're first positioning these videos on the McCall College site. And then eventually Nettie K will be going through and placing them on our own site a little bit later.
Right.
And so that's all the places that you can find them. Okay.
Good. I hope you guys join me next week, everyone. I'm really excited that you're with me, and it's just tell your friends, and don't forget to share with everybody and say, hey, come on back next Thursday at 7 o'clock, and we're going to try to get this one finished up, and I'll teach you a few more little tricks on how to do really blonde hair. This is part of the reason why I picked this photo, because I like the process of doing the hair, and it's just a lot of fun. Yeah.
Excellent.
Good.
And thank you, Nettie.
Thank you, guys.
Well, thank you for joining us here on the McCall College Community Education Thursday nights on YouTube. And we want to thank Nettie K for offering us her grandson, Oakley, and the opportunity of seeing how a portrait comes alive. And we're very thankful. We don't have photos around our house. We have Nettie K's paintings of our family on the various walls. Pretty spectacular. And you'll see many of them on NettieK.com. And so next Thursday night at 7 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time, we'll be back with part 2 of the Oakley painting. And so thank you for joining us, and come back again.